Beautiful, spicy ladies, imagine this. You're tucked into bed, the world's quiet, and somehow he's still falling for you, drawn to you without you lifting a finger. Sounds wild, right? But it's not about tricks or spells. It's about what's simmering in you, even when you're dreaming. I've gathered these 5 secrets from years of coaching, my own winding road through love's ups and downs, and those late-night epiphanies that hit when the house is still. So get comfy, and let's talk about how to pull him closer while you rest. Let's start. Number 1, the glow of inner peace. What if the secret to attracting him isn't about chasing him while you're awake, running after him with texts, calls, or grand gestures, but resting in a peace so deep he can feel from miles away, even as you sleep? I want to take you back to a night that shifted everything for me, a moment that still feels like a quiet turning point. It was after a breakup. Let's call him David, a guy I'd poured my heart into until it unraveled. That night, I was a mess, tossing, turning, my mind racing with what ifs and why nots. I'd replay every fight, every missed chance, clutching my pillow like it could hold me together. But then, somewhere in the early hours, I just let go. I stopped fighting the hurt, stopped wrestling the questions, and sank into this deep, heavy sleep. The kind where you're not even dreaming, just resting. When I woke up, the sun was spilling to the curtains, and I felt this stillness, this calm I hadn't touched in weeks. My phone buzzed. David, out of the blue. You seem different. I hadn't called him, hadn't texted, I hadn't done a thing. But somehow, in letting go, in finding that peace, I'd shifted something he could feel, even from a distance. That night, it's the root of this first secret, the glow of inner peace. It's about trust, not in him, but in yourself. And it's significant because a calm soul doesn't just sit there quietly. It radiates, sending out this invisible pull he can't ignore. When you're at peace, you're not grasping at him, not clawing for his attention or approval. You're glowing with a quiet strength that's magnetic in its stillness. I didn't see this fully until that morning with David's text. It wasn't about what I'd said or done, but what I'd stopped doing. I'd stopped chasing, stopped fretting, and in that release, I tapped into something powerful. It's a lesson I've carried ever since, one that's bloomed in my own life and the women I've coached, a thread that ties back to how we draw love closer without even trying. Let me weave this a little deeper with a story from someone I worked with. Sarah, a woman who came to me when her relationship was fraying at the edges. She'd been with her guy for years, but he started pulling away. Shorter calls, fewer nights together, and she'd panic. He's slipping, she'd say, her voice tight, and she'd double down. Text piling up. Where are you? Or, are we okay? She was fretting herself into knots, awake and asleep, her mind a whirlwind of worry. I asked her, what if you let it go just for a night? She looked at me like I'd lost it. He'll leave? But she was desperate enough to try. We started small. Before bed, she'd sit, breathe slow, and meditate, just 5 minutes, letting those worries melt like wax under a flame. She'd picture herself steady, not chasing, and sink into sleep with that calm wrapped around her. A weekend, he called. You're so steady now, he said, his voice softer, like he'd felt her shift. He didn't know she'd meditated. He just sensed her peace, and it pulled him back. This secret, it's simple on the surface, but there's a richness here that makes it stick. When you sleep in trust, when you breathe slow, release him from your grip, and let yourself rest, you're not just recharging, you're radiating. It's not about ignoring him or playing games. It's about trusting that you're enough, that your worth doesn't hinge on his every move. With David, that night of letting go wasn't planned. I was too tired to plan, but it taught me something I've lived by since. I'd wake up after those deep sleeps, not frantic, but centered, and he'd feel it, even if we weren't talking. Sarah saw it too. I stopped chasing, and he came closer. She'd marvel, her eyes wide with the realization that peace wasn't weakness, it was power. So, how do you make this real? It's not hard, but it takes a little practice. Before bed, let go. Sit quiet, breathe deep, whisper to yourself, I'm okay, he's okay. Picture him free, not bound, and sink into that trust. I started doing this after David. Nights when I'd feel that old itch to text, I'd pause, breathe, and sleep instead. I coached Emily, whose fiancé was distant. She'd fret, He's pulling back. She lied down, hands on her chest, breathing slow. I'm enough, and wake up calm. He'd text, miss you, unprompted. That quiet strength. It's emotional intimacy growing without force. He senses your calm, craves it, because it's a haven he didn't know he needed. But here's the twist. Peace isn't passive. It's power, a magnet that hums even when you're asleep. It solves that relationship panic where you push too hard, where fear drives him away. With Sarah, her fretting had him running. Her peace brought him back. Where that glow needs a spark of you, though? What if resting in trust is just a start, and your own light takes it further? That's where we're headed next. Our next secret, living your joy, even in dreams, where your shine pulls him closer still. Number 2, dream in your own light. Ever notice how the women who shine brightest, the ones who walk into a room and light it up without even trying, don't dim themselves for anyone? They've got this glow, this quiet fire, and it's magnetic, pulling people in without a word. I stumbled into the secret after that breakup with David. The guy I told you about, the one who texted me out of nowhere after I'd found peace. In those raw weeks that followed, I was lost. Nights spent staring at the ceiling, days dragging by in a haze. But then something shifted. One night, I dreamt of painting, wild colors splashing across a canvas, blues and golds swirling like a storm I could control. I hadn't touched a brush in years, but in that dream, I was free, alive, painting my way through the mess. When I woke up, I felt it, this in my chest, a lightness I hadn't known in months. I grabbed those old paints, started creating, and that energy carried me through the day. David called later. "You're different," he said, his voice curious, like he'd sensed it across the miles. I hadn't reached out, hadn't chased, but he was drawn back, pulled by a light I'd reignited in my sleep. That dream, it's the seed of the second secret, dreaming in your own light. This is about personal growth, about stepping into you that's yours alone, and it's mind-bending because your joy doesn't just lift you, it attracts them without any effort on your waking part. When you live for yourself, even in those quiet hours of sleep, that energy spills over, seeping out into the world like a beacon he can't ignore. I didn't fully grasp this until those painting nights took hold. After David, I'd spend evenings lost in color, dreaming of canvases and chaos, and wake up buzzing, not with need for him, but with life for me. It wasn't about winning him back. It was about finding myself. And yet, that vibrancy reached him anyway, tugging him closer without me lifting a finger. It's a lesson I've carried into every corner of my journey, one that's lived the women I've coached too, showing how your own shine can draw love near while you rest. Let me bring this to life with a story from someone I work with, Mia, a woman who came to me when her relationship felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Her man had been drifting, late nights at work, short replies, and she'd shrunk into the shadow of herself, always waiting. Is he still mine? She'd stopped doing what lit her up, dancing, something she'd loved since she was a kid, because she was so focused on holding him. I asked her, "What makes you feel alive?" She paused and smiled. "Dancing, I miss it." So we started there, small steps, literally. Before bed, she'd put on music, sway in her kitchen, letting her body move like it remembered how. She'd dream of dance floors of spinning free, and wake up glowing, not grasping. A few weeks in, he noticed. "You're electric," he'd say, pulling her close, his voice warm with wonder. He didn't know she'd danced. He just felt that spark, that life she'd reclaimed, and it drew him back like a moth to her flame. This secret. It's simple yet profound, a truth that flips the script on how we think about attraction. When you fill your nights with you, when you read that book you've been eyeing, dream big about your next adventure, or lose yourself in what sets your soul on fire, that vibrancy doesn't stay locked in your sleep. It seeps out, coloring your days, your voice, your presence. With David, those painting dreams weren't just escape. They were me coming alive, and he'd hear it when we talk, see it in how I carry myself. Mia felt it too. "I'm not waiting anymore," she'd say, her eyes bright, and her man couldn't look away. It's personal growth in motion. You're not chasing his love. You're building your own, and that's what pulls him in. Communication gets richer when you're whole. He's not just hearing your words. He's feeling you who's not defined by him alone. So, how do you weave this into your nights? It's not complicated, but it takes a little intention. Before bed, do something that's yours. Crack open a novel, sketch a wild idea, or like Mia, dance in your socks. I started painting again, messy strokes, no rules, and I dream of those colors, waking up with a hum he'd sense. I coached Emily, whose fiancé felt distant. She'd write stories before sleep, dreaming of her characters, and he'd say, "You're glowing." Fill your nights with you, not him, and that energy radiates. He loves you who's not just his. He's drawn to the woman who shines for herself. Here's the paradox, though. Shining solo doesn't push him away. It pulls him closer, like gravity he can't resist. It fixes that marriage rut where you lose yourself, where love feels like a shadow of what it could be. With Mia, her dancing didn't just wake her, it woke him too. But what if he feels that light without you saying a word? What if your glow speaks when you're silent? That's where we're headed next. Our next secret silent connection, where your presence alone keeps him near. Number 3, the silent pull of presence. Imagine him feeling you, even while you're asleep. No words needed, no grand gestures, just your essence reaching out across the quiet, tugging at him like a thread he didn't know was tied. I stumbled into this one with a partner. Let's call him Ryan, a guy I'd tangled with in one of those messy, passionate stretches of my life. We had a fight, something sharp and silly, maybe over who forgot to lock the door, the kind of spat that flares up and leaves you simmering. I was exhausted, too worn to keep hashing it out, so I crawled into bed, pulled the covers over my head, and napped, not out of spite, but surrender. I let the anger slip, breathed slow, and sank into this calm, steady place. Hours later, my phone buzzed, Ryan, texting out of the blue. "I miss you." I hadn't called, hadn't pleaded. I just rested, quiet and present, and somehow he'd felt me through the silence, drawn back by something I hadn't even said. That nap, it's the heartbeat of this third secret, the silent pull of presence. This is emotional intimacy that stretches beyond talk, beyond the need to fill every space with sound. And it's relevant because your presence, your quiet, trusting energy, lingers long after your eyes close. It's not about what you say or do in the waking hours. It's about what you carry within, a stillness that speaks when you're out cold. With Ryan, that afternoon wasn't planned. I wasn't playing some clever game, but it showed me something I've held on to ever since. When you trust he's there, when you rest in that faith, it's like a signal he picks up on, a whisper he can't ignore. It's a lesson that's threaded through my own journey and bloomed in the lives of the women I've coached. A quiet power that pulls him closer while you dream. Let me paint this a little clearer with a story from someone I work with. Jen, a woman who came to me when her marriage felt like it was fraying at the seams. Her husband had grown distant. Late nights at the office, clip replies, and she'd chase him, her voice tight with worry. "Are you okay? Talk to me." He'd shrug. "I'm fine." And the gap widened. She'd lie awake, fretting. He's slipping away. Her mind a storm of what-ifs. I asked her, "What if you stop running after him? Just for a night?" She hesitated. He'll drift further, but she was tired enough to try. That night, she didn't text, didn't call. She just climbed into bed, breathed deep, and let herself sleep steady, not chasing. She pictured him there, not gone, just there, and rested in that trust. The next morning, he woke her, his voice soft. "You're my anchor." He didn't know she'd shifted. He just felt it, that calm, that presence, and it drew him back like a tide turning home. This secret, it's simple on the surface, but there's a depth here that makes it hum. When you rest in faith, when you sink into sleep with that quiet, he's mine, not out of possession, but certainty. It's not just you settling, it's you sending out a signal he feels in his bones. With Ryan, those naps after our fights weren't about winning him over. They were me letting go, trusting we'd find our way, and he'd sense it every time, texting or pulling me close later. Jen felt it too. I stopped pushing, and he came to me. She'd say, her eyes wide with wonder. It's emotional intimacy at its rawest. Your quiet energy says, "I'm here," louder than any plea ever could. Communication gets deep when silence carries that weight. He's drawn to that stillness, that steady hum you don't have to force. So, how do you weave this into your nights? It's not tricky, but it takes a little heart. Before you sleep, let go, lie down, breathe slow, and picture him there, not lost. Whisper to yourself, he's with me, and rest in that. I started doing this after Ryan. Nights when I'd feel that itch to fix us, I'd pause, sink into bed, and trust instead. I coached Emily, whose fiancé felt miles away. She'd panic, he's gone. She'd curl up, hands soft, murmuring, he's mine, and sleep steady. He'd call, I felt you last night. That presence, it lingers, a pull he craves because it's calm, not chaos. I've seen it with others, Claire, whose husband worked late. She'd rest, not reach, and he'd come home. You're my peace. It's intimacy he feels when you're out, drawing him near. But silence isn't empty. It carries strength, a quiet power that holds its own. It solves that clingy spiral where you fear loss, where desperation pushes him further. With Jen, her chasing drove him off. Her stillness brought him back. What if that strength needs a touch of softness, though? What if resting in trust opens the door to something tender? That's where we're headed next. Our next secret, gentle vulnerability, where letting your guard down pulls him even deeper. Number 4, vulnerability in repose. What if the deepest way to pull him closer isn't about holding tight or building walls, but letting your guard down completely, even in sleep, and letting that softness draw him in? I learned this one with a partner. Let's call him James, a man I loved through some stormy seasons. We'd had a row one night, something jagged and raw, maybe over plans that fell apart or words that cut deeper than we meant. I was hurt, he was stubborn, and the air between us crackled with tension. Normally, I'd stew, replaying it all, my defenses up like a fortress. But that night, I was too tired to fight the exhaustion. I climbed into bed, let the anger slip, and dreamed, open-hearted, soft, picturing us laughing again, not warring. I woke up lighter, unguarded, and later that day he called, his voice low, I need you. I hadn't reached out, hadn't patched it up with words, but that softness, that vulnerability and repose, had reached him somehow, softening him too. That night with James, it's the soul of this 4th secret, vulnerability and repose. This is about trust laced with courage, about letting yourself be real when you're at your most unguarded, and it's significant because vulnerability doesn't push him away. It invites intimacy in a way nothing else can. When you're not hiding, not armoring up even in sleep, you're offering something rare, a glimpse of your truest self, a heart laid bare that calls him closer. With James, that dream wasn't strategy. I wasn't planning to win him back. It was me letting go, trusting our bond enough to rest without walls. And when he softened, it hit me. He didn't need my strength that day. He needed my softness, my openness, and it pulled him like a tide. It's a lesson I've carried through my own winding path and seen bloom in the lives of women I've coached. A quiet gift that binds you tighter while you dream. Let me weave this deeper with a story from someone I work with. Lisa, a woman who came to me when her relationship felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Her guy had been drifting, distant dinners, short replies, and she'd hardened. He's leaving, she'd say, her voice sharp with fear. She'd lie awake, defenses high, planning how to hold him. I'll confront him, fix this. I asked her, what if you let that go just for a night? She frowned. He'll think I don't care. But she was weary enough to try. That night, she didn't strategize. She sank into bed, raw, no walls, and whispered to herself, I love us. She dreamed of their early days, his laugh, her ease, and slept with that openness wrapped around her. The next morning, he rolled over, pulled her close. Me too. He didn't know she'd whispered. He just felt that unguarded heart, and it called him back, his arms saying what words hadn't yet. This secret, it's gentle but profound, a shift that turns vulnerability into a bridge, not a breach. When you let go at night, when you rest with that soft, I'm his, not out of clinging but surrender. It's not just you relaxing, it's you opening a door you can't help but walk through. With James, those open-hearted dreams weren't loud. They were quiet, real, and he'd feel it in the way I'd greet him later, softer, not braced for battle. Lisa saw it too. I stopped guarding and he came near. She'd marvel, her eyes bright with the realization that dropping her armor didn't weaken her. It deepened them. It's trust with courage. You're not hiding behind "I'm fine" or "I'll fix it." You're real, and that authenticity speaks when you're asleep. Communication thrives when you're unguarded. He doesn't cherish your shields. He cherishes your heart, raw and open. So, how do you bring this into your nights? It's not hard, but it takes a little bravery. Before sleep, let the walls fall, lie down, breathe deep, and whisper something true. "I'm his," or "I love this." Picture your softness, not your fight. I started doing this after James. Nights when I'd feel that urge to defend, I'd pause, sink into bed, and dream open instead. I coached Emily, whose fiancé felt cold. She'd brace. "He's pulling away." She'd rest, whispering, "I'm here," and sleep raw. He'd wake her. "I need this." That vulnerability. It's a call he feels, a pull to your heart, not your armor. I've seen it with Claire, her husband distant. She'd sleep soft, we're us, and he'd hold her always. It's intimacy he senses when you're out, drawing him deep. Here's the catch, though. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a gift, a quiet strength that tackles that disconnect where he feels shut out. With Lisa, her guarding pushed him off. Her openness brought him home. What if that gift isn't just yours, though? What if it's something you build together? That's where we're headed next. Our last secret, shared dreaming, where your hearts align even in sleep. Number 5, we've a shared dream. Can your dreams align, yours and his? Pulling him closer as you sleep, weaving a thread that ties you together even in the quiet of night? I stumbled into this one with a partner. Let's call him Nate, a man I shared some of my sweetest seasons with. We'd had our rough patches like any two people do. But there was this night I'll never forget. I'd gone to bed after a long day, my mind drifting, and I dreamt of us. Nothing grand, just laughing together, sprawled on a blanket under stars. The kind of simple joy that feels like home. In that dream, we were us, easy, connected, no walls. And when I woke up, I felt this warmth, this closeness that lingered. Nate stirred beside me, his voice sleepy but sure. I felt that. I hadn't said a word, hadn't nudged him awake, but somehow that shared vision in my sleep had reached him, drawing him nearer, like our hearts had whispered to each other while the world was still. That dream with Nate, it's the essence of this 5th secret, weaving a shared dream. This is intimacy in sync, a harmony that stretches beyond waking hours. And it's mind-bending because a shared vision doesn't just live in your head. It binds you heart to heart, even when you're asleep, when you dream of US, when you rest in trust, picturing your bond as something alive and growing. He feels it, senses that pull without you lifting a finger. With Nate, that starry night was a fluke. It happened other times too, nights when I'd dream of us building something, maybe a trip or a quiet life, and he'd wake up softer, closer, like he'd been part of it. It's a lesson I've carried through my journey, one I've seen light up the women I've coached, a truth that your dreams can reach him, tugging him toward a shared tomorrow while you rest. Let me bring this alive with a story from someone I worked with, Claire, a woman who came to me when her relationship was teetering on the edge. Her man had strayed, a brief affair that left her reeling, and she'd spiral. "We're done." Her voice thick with hurt. He'd stayed, but the trust was shaky, the future foggy. I asked her, "What if you dreamed of you too, not the pain, but the joy?" She looked at me, skeptical. He's gone in his head, but she was desperate enough to try. Before bed, she'd talk to him, soft, simple. "Where are we going?" And they'd muse, maybe about a house, a laugh-filled holiday. Then she'd sleep, picturing their joy, his grin, her ease, and rest in that vision. Weeks in, he'd wake her. "You're in my head," his voice low, like he'd dreamt it too. He didn't know her exact dream, but he felt that pull, that shared thread, and it drew him back, step by step. The secret. It's gentle yet powerful, a shift that turns dreaming into a bridge between you. When you trust in your bond, when you lie down, whispering, "We're us," and picture a tomorrow you both want. It's not just you hoping, it's you planting a seed he senses. With Nate, those dreams weren't loud, they were quiet, real, and he'd feel it in how we'd talk later, planting little things with a new spark. Claire saw it too, I stopped fearing and he started staying, she'd say, her eyes bright with the realization that dreaming together wasn't wishful thinking. It was intimacy deepening. Emotional intimacy thrives when you're in sync. He's not just drawn to you now. He's drawn to your shared future, a pull that hums even in sleep. So, how do you weave this into your nights? It's not complex, but it takes a little heart. Before bed, talk, nothing heavy, just where are we going? A trip, a home, a laugh, then rest in that dream of US. Trust it's there. I started this with Nate. Nights when we chat about silly plans, I'd sleep picturing us, waking to him closer. I coached Emily, whose fiance felt lost. She'd ask, "What's our next adventure?" and dream of it. He'd say, "I see it too." That shared vision, it's a call he feels. I've seen it with Sarah. Her husband distant, she'd talk. Our future, and sleep in that joy. He'd hold her. We're good. Communication deepens when you dream together. Your words set it. Your rest seals it, pulling him to tomorrow. Here's the wonder, though. Shared dreams aren't just yours. They saw that drift where you doubt your future, where love feels stuck in today. With Claire, her dreaming didn't just heal her, it tethered him, giving them a path. It's the thread of all 5 secrets. Peace, your light, presence, vulnerability, and now this, a weave that holds you tight. Let's tie it up with a final thought, a bow on this journey we've taken together. So, there's your 5. Inner peace, your light, silent presence, vulnerability, shared dreams. These aren't tricks, they're you, glowing even asleep. I met a woman once, 60 years married. I'd dream of him, she said, and he'd feel it. Reflect. What's your night saying? Shift it and watch him come close. Thanks for being here. Hit that like if this stirred you. It spreads a light. Subscribe if you're in and comment which secret's yours. I'll read every one. Until next time, sleep deep and love deeper. See you soon, spicy ladies.